Right now, joining us, Michael CarterWilliams of the Orlando Magic. Thanks so much for the time, man. I appreciate it. And tell me, how did you become such a big MMA fan?
Thank you guys for having me first. I think I became an MMA fan a long time ago. My stepfather, he was actually big into UFC. He, used to tell me about the history of UFC 1 and UFC 2. Like he goes way back. So I was kind of, brought up watching it. And I've just been a fan, ever since, yeah.
Did you watch like those original fights where there's like no rules and like
no weight classes,
eye gouging, nut shots, dude, nut shots?
Yeah. I actually just met Royce Gracie the other day.
Oh wow,
which was awesome. So yeah.
Do you train at all? Have you trained at MMA in any sort of way, whether it's jiu-jitsu or combat sports?
Yeah, I train a little bit jiu-jitsu. I started about 2 summers ago, and then I kind of took some time off, and then this summer I was training a lot. Had a lot of fun. I love my teacher in John Burke, and I love he comes from the Gracie family as well. So he's a great teacher.
Does it help you in your game at all? Does it help you perfect anything in your game? I mean, it's a lot of discipline, but anything else that it helps you out with?
Yeah, no, I think it helps you, think while you're doing movements. You're always got to be thinking. It's a big mind game, and same thing with basketball. There's quick movements, but you got to be thinking. I've always been taught to have a slow mind, but playing fast. So that's kind of what jiu-jitsu is.
So we talked about. I kind of think I know where you're going to go with this, but I have a segment I like to call like the best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be. And I kind of like to see who you think is right now the best UFC fighter, what was the best of all time, and who is someone that's up and coming. So start with it. Like who got you into UFC? Who do you think is the best fighter of all time?
Anderson Silva got me into UFC, I would say. He was my first favorite, probably my favorite fighter. The best of all time probably have to be John Jones, just because he's never been beat. He's been dominated he dominated for so long. He went through different generations of fighters. The best right now, I would probably say Khabib. He's pound for pound, right? Number one right now. He just retired, so I think until if John Jones gets a shot at the heavyweight title and he wins that, I think that closes the deal. But then there's also other options too, right? Like Israel Adesanya, like if he gets another, then he's 2-weight world champion. He's already defended 1 belt. If he wins another, like, there's a lot of guys. The guy I'm looking really forward to seeing is, I know he hasn't fought a lot of competition, but is Khamzat. Khamzat. He's
got the big fight with Leon Edwards coming up, right?
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see where he is, just because he's so versatile, right? He's got the hands and he's got the ground game too. So a lot of the guys either have one or the other, and he's got both. So it's going to be. I know it's really early to tell, but like a super early prediction to see a guy come up with to be a crazy star. I think he's got all the talent.
You talk about John Jones. You talk about his making his way towards the heavyweight division. And this is something that I think your sport can relate to too, because like over the past few years, the heavyweight division has basically been like stuck between Stipe, DC, Francis Ngannou now getting his second run of the title. It's John Jones is kind of adding a new wrinkle to that, and hopefully he's going to have a shot at the title too. Compare that to like the NBA, where it's always it's a very top heavy league, and it doesn't really move as much. You're going to see LeBron James. You're going to see right now Brooklyn Nets are going to be up there, hopefully, possibly as making a run at the championship. Is it too top heavy, you think, even in UFC, or do you think that they have to move it around a little bit too?
I think it's different. I think like in the NBA, it's like a newly kind of thing where teams are getting really top heavy. For a while there was like, maybe 1 or 2 stars on each team, and now there's 3, 4, potential all-stars on teams. So, I think that makes it a little, that makes it real top heavy. And then, in the UFC, I think that, and those guys are just so good, man. Like we're blessed at a time right now, right? Like I don't know when's the next time we'll see another John Jones or see another DC or even Stipe, right? Like those guys are all so so talented and they don't come around too often. So I think we're blessed in that area. But I do think that with like in 10, 5-10 years, we're going to see some different type of talent in the UFC just because it's becoming such a popular sport. And I don't think they scratch the surface of where, I think we'll look back at these guys in like 10-15 years and be like, whenever we thought, Khabib was the best fighter ever, like, remember when we thought Conor and, all these other guys were, look at.
Dude, we look at, like, you're talking about you've been watching UFC forever, so the Randy Couture's, the Chuck Liddells, the Tito Ortiz's, those type of names and how talented the GSPs, the George St. Pierre's. It's like, oh, these guys were studs, and now it's like those were specialists, those were knockout artists or GSP, even with the ground game and stuff like that. But he's a good striker too. Don't take that away. But now everyone is just so well diverse. Stipe could do everything. He could, whether it's on the ground or stand up, he's got it. You look at Khabib, who is sort of a specialist with the ground game, but he can strike with somebody. He stood with Gaethje. He stood up there with Conor too. He's not afraid. Yeah,
no, for sure. And that's the same. That to be versatile in this, you got to be versatile now in this sport. You either have to have a wicked defensive takedowns, or and you got to be amazing on your feet, or if you're not amazing on the ground, you're gonna have some trouble with these guys, or.
Well, that's the thing that I look at these days too, because you look at a guy like Tyron Woodley, who he such a good wrestler, but is known for striking because he's got that knockout power, and you saw what happened with him and Kamaru Usman. Like, Kamaru Usman is an elite wrestler. No, and no one's going to minimize what Tyron Woodley can do on the ground too. And his defense is pretty solid. But Kamaru made him look silly. And it's one of those things where it's like the levels are just getting better and better. The younger guys are just coming up and taking over. And it's kind of interesting to see what him and Gilbert Burns are going to do in a couple weeks.
Yeah, I can't wait to see that fight. That's going to be a real interesting fight. Gilbert Burns he has both as well. So, that's a fight I'm looking forward to. I'm 50-50 on that fight right now. I don't know who's going to take that. I mean, be interesting to see if Usman can control in the clinch and get those short strikes, and he's got those weak foot stomps. But no, he's super talented. Can't take anything away from him. But yeah.
Well, that's with the Conor Dustin Poirier fight. I was looking at that with the shoulder strikes. They were both trading the shoulder strikes. I was like, okay, is this like a new fad? Are we going to start seeing this in the UFC? Because for a while, the foot stomps was like a thing, and I really couldn't stand that. Like, I remember the Matt Serra, who's a very interesting fighter. I like him, dude. Again, shocked the world with the GSP win. Yeah. But he was known for those foot strikes, foot stomps. I'm like, all right, those could be used here or there, but let's not bore us for 3 rounds and just do foot
stomps. Yeah. No, yeah, for sure.
But it's cool. It is crazy to see, like, the adaptation of the striking, the interesting ways that people are like Max Holloway, what he did a few weeks ago. You look at the type of performance he put on. That was just crazy. And Cater too was taking like a champ and throwing and trading. And it's just one of those things where I think you're getting these fighters now to really just excel. Even if someone is a little bit better, it's still an entertaining fight, which is what you and I are looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody's looking for those, entertaining fights. What Max did was unbelievable. Calvin stayed in there like a champ, like you said, and it wasn't his night, but he showed tremendous heart. That was on both sides. You probably never seen anything like that before. This was Max's output, and the way Calvin was able to take those hits and throw back some too. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I think we're seeing even the fight with Conor and Poirier, even the leg kicks, like Conor never saw those leg kicks like that before. The game changes so quick, right? Like, you miss 4 or 5 months and there's fighters adapt to new things. Like the leg kicks always haven't been a huge, they've been there, but not a huge play in the UFC like they've had this past, 2 years.
Yeah, I can't understand that too, because you and I both know, like, we're watching it I'm sure during when the pandemic started, most people that are like NBA fans and baseball fans, football fans, they had nothing to watch. You and I had something to watch every week. I was fun. It was all good with me. Good. Yeah. But we watched, like, the leg strikes are huge. We know all the stuff. How does someone like Conor McGregor not realize that, like, just check one leg kick, man?
Yeah, no, I know. And then that's what I think too. And then I got to think, like, okay, I mean, I understand that, then I like put it to basketball terms and, like, how does this guy can score. How don't you stop him? Or this guy's going to do this, and you still don't stop. You know what I mean? I guess like that's my only answer. Kind of could be is like, he's never felt him before. I watched the interview with Kavanaugh, and they say, obviously we went over them, but it's different when you're wearing pads on. You're not really feeling it. So, if you're going through that repetition and you're not, totally 100% feeling the effect it has on your body, you may get, a little lackadaisical whether you get hit with the pad on. You're like, I can eat that, and then you go, give your shots, whatever. But yeah, I mean, you just got to make adjustments, man. His stance is, it's susceptible to those leg kicks. So I know you can take away everything. So maybe you thought he could, get him out of there before they started to affect him.
When you were watching the fights, were you watching with some friends, or were you by yourself? Or typically when you watch fights, are you usually by yourself because no one else, you don't want anybody around you? Because I don't know about you, but
I love watching fights by myself. Unless it's my stepfather, my brother. I love watching fights by myself just because I just can't, like, if you don't know what you're talking about and you're talking during the fights and trying to listen, trying to see, I'm just like, even my girlfriend and her friend, I'm just like, come on, man. Like, the guy wanted to win and you were here and he lost. I'm blaming it on you. Like,
oh, of course. That's watching you guys too, though. Watching it, and whether it's NBA, watching Super Bowls that's coming up. Like, if you're bad luck, my son was watching the Buffalo Bills game. My wife walked in the room for a second. He's like, get out of here. Get out of here. I don't want you around. And that's just how it is, man. You're superstitious. Yeah. And, like, I don't know about you. Like, have you gone to a lot of these events live?
Yep. Yeah.
When you go there, like, I mean, watching a sporting event live is always crazy, but, like, seeing a main event, like, my heart starts to palpitate. Like, I start to bug out. Man. Like, it's crazy, the energy,
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. The energy, the intensity is so crazy in there. I saw when Masvidal knocked Ben Askren out with the knee. That was unreal. I've seen Nate versus Anthony Pettis. I actually saw Connor fight Max in Boston.
Oh, wow, yeah. I was there too.
Undercard. Yeah, that's crazy.
I forgot about that. I looked it up at the wait a second. I have pictures of me sitting there. That was nuts. Yeah. And even back then, you saw the aura of a Conor McGregor. It's crazy.
Yeah. So yeah, it's there's nothing like I try to tell my friends, my teammates. I'm like, bro, there's nothing like going to a UFC event.
What do you think could help market the UFC? Because look, you take away NBA is like the best marketer for any major sport right now. You talk about, I'm a big baseball fan too, and I'm like, they need to catch up to what NBA is doing, because you guys know how to highlight your superstars, highlight the game itself, and it's on a different level. UFC's done a good job. I mean, the fact that they were on ABC was pretty awesome recently, but you being in the NBA, you have to see the how you guys are appreciated and how you guys are highlighted and everything you do. So, what would your suggestion be to, like, the UFC to help boost up your celebrity status, I guess?
Man, I mean, I don't know, man. It's so hard. It's so hard just because, like, you just can't – it's so rare to be a John Jones and be on top of your game for so long, right? And, guys, in UFC, it's not like boxing. Like, you're fighting – if you're top five, you're fighting a guy in the top five. You're not having a mandatory who just lost. You know what I mean? Like, you're fighting the best all the time. You're fighting the guys that, people think that can beat you, like, just because of the matchup. Like, it's so hard. But I would just say, like, I think they're on the right trail, right? There's more stars, and you got Izzy, you have Khabib, you have guys that are, you have
Kevin Holland,
you have Nate, Kevin Holland, like, guys that are starting to really, like, get some juice behind them, and even Max. Like, people are just starting to appreciate who Max is now, right? It's like,
I know
he's been champ for like for forever. Like, you know what I mean? So, like, I mean, I think they're on the right path. I think they're on the up and up of appreciating guys' skills more. And it's just about keep getting their face in there, keep getting, like, it's got to be SportsCenter's got to be ESPN has got to be more on the talks on ESPN. He's got to have real analysts that know what they're talking about, what I mean, on the show. And, so, I think that's all I got for that.
You bring up two things that I got to talk about, because the Stephen A. I'm not sure if you heard the Stephen A. comments about him not wanting to watch. He's not really particularly into watching females fight. But if you think about, like, what UFC has done, and Dana White was not on board with this either, but you think about, like, 3-4 times a year, their main cards are headlined by like Amanda Nunes or Valentina Shevchenko, Ronda Rousey back when she was fighting. Like, so clearly there is a fan base for this. What are your thoughts on females in fighting, especially because they are getting pushed? They're getting like, even in at WNBA compared to NBA, it's still like levels away. But UFC, MMA, it's like they're on the same level. Am I wrong?
Yeah, no, I think so. I think that, like, again, in women in UFC is in the grand scheme of things, they haven't been around that long. Like, you have to let the talent develop. Like, think of when basketball started and the talent then. Obviously, there's guys that are have generational talent, like Wilt Chamberlain. He would have been fine in the NBA now, but like, I guarantee you that some of the other people he was playing against weren't the way that the NBA is right now. It's just how life works. So, if you let them, keep going, and there is super talented women right now. Like Thug Rose is really good. Billy Zhang is really good. Joanne is really good. Amanda Nunes. There's tons of girls that are really, really good, and they just need to be recognized more. Like, I love watching them. I get, like, there's some fights where, the defense is not all there and they're just throwing straight. It's sloppy, but like, that comes with the sport, in years around, down the line, those things will be cleaned up and we'll start to see other women that are like really, really elite. Like, if you've ever watched Shevchenko fight, it's like, she's a masterpiece. She's unreal.
A killer.
Like,
she's a killer.
Exactly. Like, you can't take all the people I just named, their skills away, because they're amazing fighter. Like Amanda Nunes, you could say she's the best fighter in UFC.
Yeah. No question.
You know what I mean?
No question. And it's funny because you also brought up the boxing thing too, about how like the star power of boxing and then UFC. They're creating names and stuff like that. But it's crazy because, again, I work in local sport talk radio, and on a daily basis, it's NBA, MLB, NFL. That's what we talk about, right? But the Mike Tyson Roy Jones fight was a big thing, and the Nate Robinson Jake Paul was a huge thing. I'm like, you guys are missing out on so much awesome. Like, if you guys like combat sports, just turn on UFC, turn on ESPN Plus. But those are the things, like those type of like goofy fights, I guess. I don't know what you want to call them. That's what people are into over here. It's killing me. The Ben Askren, Jake Paul that's going to come up, I'm nervous as all hell because I'm supportive of the MMA family, and I know he's not going to knock him out. I know he's not going to knock out Jake Paul. He should be able to hopefully learn. He has defense, hopefully, and can last 4 rounds or however long it's going to go. What are your thoughts on those type of celebrity fights, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, I can't lie. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of them. I watch just because I'm a fan of the fight game, but I can't lie and say I don't watch. But yeah, I'm not a fan of them. Like, I don't get what good comes out of it. Like, obviously, Jake Paul's won 2 fights now, and he's fought 2 guys that probably don't never trained before in their life. You can obviously tell, but again, and I don't want to knock anyone's hustle. He's probably making good money off of what he's doing.
Yeah.
That's him. I'll never knock any man's hustle, but I mean, it is. I mean, I hope I hope Ben Askren wins too. What we've seen on his feet isn't too impressive, but and you got to think again. He's been hit by, monster knees, punches, and elbows and kicks, and so he could take the damage. I don't think he's going to get knocked out. So we'll see. But I think he does troll a little bit too, though. Like, there's no way he hits the heavy bag like that. Like, I think he feeds into it a little bit too. Like, I think he's going to be a little bit sharper than we think. But obviously, we know he's not we know his hands aren't very good. We've seen that in fights. But I think a lot of his stand-up is a deploy to get him to the ground. Like, so he's never even thought about stand-up. You know what I mean? So
I know. And I don't know if I could watch it just because I don't want to see him get knocked out. That would be killer to me. That would hurt. But it's gonna be a moneymaker, man. So I mean, good for Jake Paul for being able to build that audience. I'd sit there. I try to convince everybody. I'm like, listen, there are amazing fights like this weekend. Alistair Overeem versus Volkov. Like, that's a great fight. It's a heavyweight fight. Alistair Overeem's one of the best fighters of all time. It doesn't get as much credit just because he hasn't held a title in UFC. But it's just those free fights you should check out. Like, how do you convince your friends to watch those fights?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard, but once I get them to watch, they're like, I got to, I've got a bunch of guys hooked that like my teammates. I'll be like, just come watch the fight with me. Like, let's just watch, like whatever. So watch the fight, and they'll be like, man, like this is action packed. And then they get hooked. They start, doing on their own. Like, it's crazy. Like, for years, I used to, tell everybody to watch it. Now when there's a big event, I get hundreds of texts. You watching the fight? You watching the fight? Like, of course I'm watching the fight. I'm watching the fight. Like, I was the one who told you need to start watching fights. Like, but no, I mean, I try, man. I try. I try to get people to go. Like, I tell all my friends, like, yo, you ever want to come an event with me? Like, we can go. Like,
yeah.
So
It's worth it, man. You know it. I'm trying to sell the event on everybody because I'm like, dude, it's just worth the experience. Just try it once, you'll be hooked forever. And that's another thing too. Like, the audience is finally coming back. I don't know if it's gonna be for this pay-per-view, but at least I think the 259 they're coming back, which is gonna be crazy. Give me your perspective. Obviously you've been out for a little bit this season. You've had some injury woes, but the fans being back in the crowds. Do you feel we saw the issue with LeBron James, which is so stupid. I mean, get these people out of here. But I mean, for that, you're going to get those hecklers no matter what. But is it good to have the fans back? Do you vibe off of them? Did you miss it a lot when they weren't around?
Absolutely. I think the fans can help you definitely kick it into another gear. It was interesting in UFC to not have fans because I was like, oh, we get to hear the hits a little bit. You get to, hear everything, the coaching going on. But I do miss the fans, the big moment, the big hits with the crowd. And, fans are such a big part of the sport, and, they're definitely missed. I've noticed, I feed off the crowd a ton when I play. So I definitely miss the crowd.
Michael CarterWilliams, just a couple more minutes. Anything that you would like to promote yourself? Anything that you got going on right now in the works?
Not really. I mean, shout out to my girls from my MCW Stars girls. I love them all. We got about 15, 16 girls teams, a few boys teams as well. They're always supporting me. So, keep going, and everybody, keep staying strong, and, being healthy through the pandemic, of course. Shout out to Orlando Magic, for sure.
And what about Cuse? My boy John Strickland would kill me.
Sure. For sure. I'm always much love for Cuse and Coach Boeheim and the the guys over there, G-Mac, all of them, Coach Autry. So I miss Cuse. I catch the games here and there. My brother right now, he plays for Creighton, so I watch a lot of Big East ball. So but yeah.
That's awesome. Well, Michael, thanks so much for the time, man. I appreciate it.